Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Pig-Headed and Well-Read. Today's episode covers chapters 22 through 24. I am your host, Nathan Skidmore, here with my co-host, Ethan Rowley. This is a spoiler-free pod, as always, so we are only going to be discussing what's happened through chapters 24. Chapter 24. Chapters 24? New thing?
Chapters 24? There's multiple chapter 24 in this book.
Like attorneys general, yeah. We will be releasing episodes weekly, every Tuesday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on our YouTube channel. Each episode is going to cover roughly 50 pages from the book. We also invite you to follow us on social media. And if you are following along with us, and have your own comments or insights, feel free to email us at pigheadedandwellread@gmail.com. Quick content warning before we get started. Due to the nature of East of Eden's story and characters, throughout this pod, we'll be touching on some mature and complex themes, including but not limited to violence, abuse, suicide, alcoholism, racism, war, death, and sex work. So if these topics are difficult for you, please listen with care. Ethan, what are you most looking forward to in this section of chapters?
This section of chapters has a really good discussion between Lee and Sam and Adam about the idea of free will and what we have the power to control in our lives, all summed up in this great word, Timshel. So that'll be fun to revisit with you and our listeners.
Yeah, sounds great. Well, let's kick it back to our past selves and hear what they had to say about it. Okay, here we go. Samuel finds out that Adam has not named his children, gets himself into a good righteous anger, goes down there, demands that Adam name his children, kind of gets him to snap out of it a little bit. They name the children. And then we get some backstory on Tom Hamilton, who seems like maybe in the next part of the book he's going to be pretty important. We get a feel for what he cares about, what he thinks, what's happened to him in his life. Some Tom story. And then in the final chapter that we're going to cover in this pod, Samuel prepares to leave his ranch forever. He goes and visits with Adam one last time. They talk about a few different things with Lee, and then Samuel ends up telling Adam that Kathy is in the Salinas Valley and that she runs a whorehouse.
Bada bing, bada boom.
There it
These
is.
are getting easier. These are getting so much easier the more episodes we get in. The first few, it's a little bit harder to grab like the main points in 3 sentences. These last ones have been pretty easy.
The first few, like I didn't really know what was important ever, and so I was just like, I better talk about the soil, like in case this is, in case that's important. And I'm getting a better feel for it now, so I feel like I can summarize some. What else? I had something I forgot. We can move on.
Okay, well, we're moving on right into you. Chapter 22.
Okay, so yes, chapter 22. So the chapter before this ends with Kathy getting a hold of the whorehouse. That's what I was going to say. I was going to say, I'm not going to say whore nearly as many times as I did last episode. Last episode, probably a record for most times saying whore, like in a 1 hour span of my life. Yeah, I can't imagine I've said it more than that. But
not a focal point in these
not a focal point.
Pages.
Hardly any whores in this. It comes up at the very end, but not a big deal. Okay. So now we're going to jump back to Adam. And so what's happened to Adam ever since Kathy left is that he's let his house go to completely to ruin. He sent the builders home, so like I guess the roof's open, and like the rain's pouring into the house and like ruining the floorboards and just destroying the house. And he lets the garden get overrun with weeds, and he never plants anything. He doesn't finish the windmills that were going to bring water up. He's basically given up. And there were a few interesting things here. Like, I don't know, it's just really sad the way it said, like, he just had he felt a thin distaste for his twins. And it's like,
Hmm.
man, like that's really tough. And like obviously Lee is mostly taking care of the children because like Adam's basically a shell of a man.
He's totally checked
Um,
out.
yeah, he's cooked. And so Samuel Hamilton, the last we heard from him, uh, he had told Adam like that he was going to keep coming back to help him, but he goes twice, and then after he comes back after the second time, his wife Liza is basically like, you can't keep going over there. Like it's not good for you. You're having no impact on him. And I thought I'd just read the quote because I did think this is an interesting one. I don't have quite enough thought behind it to make it a Nate's take, but just the she does say, "You come back a changed man, Samuel. You don't change him. He changes you. I can see the look of him in your face." Um, and so Samuel, he kind of represents goodness, right? I don't
Hmm.
probably a more eloquent way to say that, but
I
so
think
it's
so.
interesting to
Yeah.
you'd like to believe that the person that at least so far in the book represents the right, the correct, the moral, could go into someone like Adam's life and change things. But it seems like Liza catches on pretty quick that Samuel's being dragged down rather than Samuel pulling Adam up.
Hmm.
Um,
And I think we've all experienced some point in our lives where we've been around somebody that's super depressed, seen the world through gray water, and it like impacts the rest of our day. Well, like you kind of carry a little bit of that weird feeling in their home in their lives throughout you for like the next 2 or 3 hours after being with them. And so I can imagine us going regularly to them and how good Sam is and just the overpowering depression that Adam must be having to really
yeah,
chip away at Sam. And this happened before Sam's daughter dies that really eats Adam. So this is like the prologue to the back
it's
bit
like
of his
setting
life.
Samuel up for some sadness. Like
Yeah.
hey, here's what sadness looks like. Um, but yeah, and then so Adam stops. I mean, so Samuel stops visiting him. He kind of fights against it, like like he kind of tells her, like, I can't mind my own business. I can't leave a man alone when he's suffering. But she wins that argument. You'll see throughout, she wins a lot of the arguments. Um, and he stops going, and then we get some updates on the Trask children and where they're off to. I did think it was fun that they were like Joe went off to a little school called Stanford. No, yeah, also fun that he becomes like an atheist in his first semester. Like just very very like good to know Stanford
Very
always doing
college
that.
coded.
Very
Yeah.
college coded. He goes to college in his first semester, like writes his mom home like God's not real, mom. And his dad's like, can you not?
You you can't. You're not going to shake her faith. Doesn't he say something like, "You
He's
don't
like,
have
your
a
mom,
shovel for her mountain of
your
faith"?
mom's faith's a mountain, and you don't even have a shovel. Like
Yeah,
he's like, you're not even equipped to talk to your mom about this. Like,
yeah.
um, yeah. So that I mean, I don't know how important that is. We get some
Just
more
a funny tidbit of the
Trask.
Hamiltons.
Yeah, we get some other notes on some of the other. Uh, I said Trask kids. They're the Hamilton kids. We get some other notes on like other kids going into business, getting married. We got a lot to cover on this episode, so I'll skip those things. But and so then we pick up in the action. Sam sprains his back. He's getting old. I mean, he had a white beard at the time when he delivered the twins, and so now time has passed. He's older. Hurts his back. Goes into town to see the doctor. Stops to get a drink, and he runs into Lee. And so he's talking to Lee, and he's asking him like, "Oh, what's it like with how's Adam? Adam's bad. Uh,
How do you think
it's
he is,
not
dude?
basically, yeah." And then he asks about the kids, and Lee pretty much says like, "Well, like they're good," and he's like, "Well, what are their names?" He's like, "Oh, they don't have names." He calls them they. Uh, and so and
15
like
months old babies, by the
15
way.
months old. And like he asks him like a bunch of questions, like, "Well, what if he's talking to one of them?" He's like, he calls him you, and like, um,
He
which is
points.
bad. It's bad that Adam did that. Like, I know that Lee works for him, but like Lee, you gotta push back a little bit. You gotta be like, hey man, you gotta name this child. But it's mostly Adam's fault. It's 98% Adam's fault that those kids
Hmm.
don't have names.
Lee could have
Um,
given them really beautiful Cantonese names because he's trying to teach them Cantonese.
yeah, I mean, he said they were. So, and this makes Samuel like super upset. And it's been 14 months. So like they're not like nothing babies. Like 14 months, they walk around and they say Baba.
Hmm.
So like anyway, so the twins have no name. Samuel gets enraged. He goes to Eliza. Oh, not to her name's not Eliza. He goes to Eliza and he's prepared to like have it out. And he's like, I'm gonna win this argument. You can tell from what we've already seen that he mostly lets her win the arguments. Like he doesn't feel like
He's
going
not going
at
in to win, really. Yeah.
yeah, but this one he's like, I'm gonna win. I am going. And he tells Liza, and at first she pushes back a little bit, but then like he kind of tells her about them not having names, and she's like, "Well, you better go down there, and you better make this happen." And she kind of flips it on him, where I like how at first when he thinks that she's not gonna let him go, she's like, "Well, what are you gonna do?" And he's like, "Well, I don't know, I don't know." Like, and then she's like, "Well, you better go down there," and he's like, "I'm gonna beat him up," and she's like, "No, you're not." It's
Just
just kind of
don't come back here unless they have names.
yeah. She's like,
Yeah.
make sure they have names, and then she kind of sends him on his way. And that's really that. And it is kind of funny. He's like, just when I think I know her, she does a thing like that. That's kind of like that. That's kind of the end of that little section.
Hmm.
Um,
A good
and
woman
just
keeps
kind of
you on your
interesting.
toes.
Yeah, I like the Liza and Samuel uh relationship just because I don't know, like in like the first couple chapters, the narrator Steinbeck, he basically was like, yeah, like she wasn't a good fit for him. We don't know, and then, like
Hmm.
I don't know, but every time they have an interaction, I do come away feeling like they're a good pairing for each other, like that they do kind of
They
balance
balance
each
each
other
other
out.
out. Jinx.
Yeah, I think if they both had the same kind of faith, like I they I think it's probably worse for you to
Hmm.
maybe it's nice in the short term to get along, but like it's probably worse for you to be with someone who just kind of thinks of things and does things the same way you do.
Yeah, and I think
Um,
it also speaks volumes with how eclectic their children are. They're all so different, and I don't think they could have been like that if they were both Lizas or both Samuels. They
mhm.
need to have both sides of it.
Yeah, yeah. So that's that little section, and then let me pull up my notes here. So Samuel shows up at Adam's house, and he starts going beast mode as soon as he gets there, and like this was again, I was having to like reread these sentences because like they didn't make any sense to me. Like he just comes straight in. I'll just start reading what he calls him. He says, "How could you, Adam Trask? A dog wolf with a pair of cubs, a scrubby rooster with sweet paternity for a fertilized egg, a dirty clod." And I was like, what is he
Yeah.
saying? It
He's
doesn't make any
his I wonder if his anger is like bringing him back to Irish sayings, you know? Yeah, my favorite was I feel murder nudging my gizzard.
Yeah, I had
That
that.
was the line for me.
I had
I'm gonna
that
start using
underlined.
that.
Yeah, I feel murder nudging my gizzard, and then just
If
below
if
that
I
he
was
says,
Adam too, just being like in a trance for 15 months, this would totally take me for a
just this
loop.
guy, this guy like this guy's speaking gibberish on my front door.
I think it
And then
was
he
a
said,
vision or something.
yeah, and then this one, it says he jeered at him. He's like, "You bought your eyes and nose. You bought your uprightness. You bought
So
your
when
thumb sideways. Like, you listen to me because I'm like to kill you after you bought some of the sweet inheritance. Think now. Do you deserve your children, man?"
it
This guy's
the
going
way he's
crazy on
talking,
him.
he totally reminds me a lot of the Ghost of Christmas Present in A Christmas
He
Carol.
went he went full Charles Dickens on him. Like when Adam does like kind of cheer up, and he's like, "Wow, you really shook me out of it. Like, thank you." Like
Hmm.
Samuel kind of like he kind of. It's funny that he kind of gushes. He's like, "Oh, do you think I did a good job?" Like he was riding over on his horse, like I'm gonna say the murder in my gizzard. Like he was
Yeah.
worried about how it's gonna come off. It's like,
It
um,
reminded me a lot of Kathy's dad when he like had to pretend to be mad to beat her,
uh-huh. A
and then he
little
was
bit,
happy to.
yeah. Like,
Yeah, there's
well,
some
it's just like,
similarities in the parenting.
yeah. I mean, and Samuel really was mad. Like he had that anger white hot inside him, but like it was kind of one of those things where like he shows up and he sees Adam and it is just a person. Like have you ever had that where like you're so mad at someone and you're like I'm mad at you, and then you like see him and you're like like it's a person. Like
It's just an old lady driving a van. I can't. She cut me off. I was so upset.
no, I'll stay mad at I'll stay mad at the bad driver. I'll be thinking about her when I go to sleep. But yeah. So anyway, but back to the present. After he's yelled at him a good bit, Adam is still protesting. And so Samuel, puts his hands on his throat and starts choking him. It's basically like, name your children, like, as he's choking
Hmm.
him out. Um, and that pretty
Well,
much wakes Adam out of it.
there
Yeah,
too, Adam says he says you haven't named your children. Your sons have no names, and Adam says their mother left them motherless. And I was like, Adam, that is such a victim response. Like, did you think that it was Kathy's responsibility to name these kids, or is it some weird way of, oh, she left me, I now am wifeless, so if their mother left them motherless, they're going to be nameless. It's just like another way to misery loves company. My children will go nameless
it's
because my
kind
wife left
of
me. Yeah.
it's kind of Ron Burgundy esque. It's in the second Anchorman when he goes blind and he ostracizes himself and his friends come to help him and they're like he's telling them what it's like to be blind, but like what he's describing like doesn't have anything to do. He's like I brushed my teeth with a lobster this morning, and they're like, couldn't you tell that wasn't your toothbrush? And he goes, I'm blind. it's like
Yeah.
it's like it's like you haven't named your children. He's like, well, their mom left, and it's like, okay, but those are two different things. Like,
Hmm.
um, you
It's
know,
like I was shot. That's kind of what he's saying.
I
I
you
was
know,
shot
and
15 months ago.
you can get some decent runway out of being shot. I mean, people will feel bad for you. But I don't know. I don't know how you can get away with uh,
Not naming your children
not naming your kids. It's
because
just a
Sam
very
says
basic
like
thing.
people pick up rocks and name them by the end of the day. Like you just as humans we give names to things. It's so weird you haven't named your children.
Well,
You haven't
yeah,
given them
and
an
it's like
identity. You haven't discovered them,
it.
you know?
I mean, it almost like it's like inhuman not to love your children. Like your children are born, and you just love them so much, and so like it points to something very broken in Adam that he's like, I don't care.
Yeah.
How could you do that? Like, and I do understand how it makes you mad as an outside observer. Like what's wrong with you? Especially for someone like Samuel who treasures his family so much and like he really doesn't have any wealth outside of his children. So for someone like that, the idea that someone might have children and not care uh,
Hmm.
quite bothers him.
For sure.
Um, but yeah, so then Adam snaps out of it. He thanks Samuel. Samuel is proud that he's like, I did good. Like,
Hmm.
um, and then they kind of, Adam does a little music. They talk a little bit about Kathy. They sit down to eat some. They sit down to eat some chicken. You find out that Lee has dropped the Asian accent. Like just basically he's talking normal
Except
now.
in King City, he says.
Yeah,
In King
he
City, he'll
keeps it up in
still
King
talk
City.
pigeon.
Yeah, but he's
But
done.
yeah, I wonder what he saw in Adam that just made him think, I gotta drop this bit around him. I think that he just
Uh,
saw Adam at his most vulnerable, and he thought
I
this guy's not a threat, and now I don't need anything from him.
I,
So
I
there's
think he saw
yeah,
that this was like a husk of a person. It's not worth how much work it is maintaining this ruse to to fool this like semi person.
Yeah, the zombie.
And he I don't think he ever explains it to Adam because when he walks out of the room, Adam says to Samuel, he's like,
You
"He
speak
used to
English.
talk different, didn't he?"
Yeah. Yeah. He never picked up on it until he got choked out of it.
He's like, "What's his deal?" um, yeah. So, but yeah, it is interesting. Like one of the first things he asks is if he has news about Kathy, which I take as a bad sign.
Hasn't
And
gotten
Sam
over
says
it.
no, but does he? And they just kind of have an interesting conversation. Like he asks him, like, "Hey, do you feel hatred to her?" And he says, like, "No, it's more like a sinkingness of heart." Um,
Adam would
which
be
I think,
such a good songwriter, I think. He should have written some country songs during these 15 months or some poetry.
yeah, my wife shot me and left. That's like a George Strait song, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, the sinkingness of heart, I think that's a very familiar feeling. Just that. I mean, I don't know if you don't know what anyone else feels, but like I feel the sinkingness of heart. That's like that's my main bad emotion that I get more than anything else is that I'll just feel my heart just like drop out of my chest. It's just like oh, like
Yeah.
tremendous sadness. Like I don't know, like other people probably have more difficulty with
Anxiety or,
yeah, more
yeah.
anxiety. Like mine is just like I like when he describes the sinking heart. Like I know about the sinking heart.
Relatable.
My heart is sinking sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and then he does kind of come out and say that Kathy shot him, which he'd refused to do earlier. So healing. Um, and I think it's interesting. Like he says, like she didn't mean to, and like when he first said it, I was like, oh, he's making excuses for her. But then he kind of diagnoses it very accurately that he's like, yeah, she didn't kill me because she didn't even care. Like she didn't even care to
Yeah.
kill me. Like she
Hatred
want,
requires passion, and she's passionless.
yeah, like
She's just a walking
I didn't even
nothing.
inspire. I didn't even inspire strong enough negative emotions for her to kill me. Like he's almost a little insulted. Where he's like, wow, you really care that little, like that you're just like,
Yeah.
yeah, like I just want you out of my way physically. That's the only thing I care about.
Hmm.
Um, and they
Yeah.
have a
And
pretty quick. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I really like Sam's retort to that too, as he says, "I don't think you only saw her as your own creation." And just good on Sam in his old age, and we'll see him further down. He just calls it as he sees it, calls people out.
He just
But
gets it.
Adam was just he's just such the far extreme of so many of these human universal emotions because I do think to an extent everybody that we know in our lives we only know based on what we've constructed of them, based on what they've shown us or what memories we choose to remember of them or how we choose to interpret their actions. So we don't really know anybody to their core. We have like Nate, I know you, but I know like this creation of you in my head and what you've shown to me in the time we've been friends. And Adam just goes so far into it where it's purely the creation, no truth of it. This is how I saw
Hmm.
Kathy. So he just the human emotions he feels ramped up to 11.
Yeah, yeah. And so they kind of continue like he says the interesting line where he just kind of reflects on their time together and he's like I didn't care who she was. And it's almost like he's realizing for the first time how strange that is, like that you wouldn't care at all like what someone's life was like um before you met them. Like there's an aspect where that could be a beautiful thing where like someone's had a really hard life and done things they regret and you're like I love you so much I don't care. But like it's a little odd. Like you don't know anything about. You never asked, or maybe he asked, and like you didn't care to like dig in. Like
Oh,
um,
I don't think he was digging in. I think he just kept
you don't
saying,
dig
"We're
in.
moving west. You're gonna love it there. Can't
Yeah,
wait to have children."
yeah. He's kind of a fool. And then they have a kind of a quick nature versus nurture discussion, which is an interesting conversation where he's kind of like, well, I don't know, like my she's gonna be in my boys. Like he's thinking about how they're gonna be like her. Um, and And Samuel's kind of, he's on the other side of that. He's like, oh, like they'll be however you raise them. Um,
Yeah.
and they kind of talk about it. Adam kind of hits him with I love like a discussion between like people that aren't like people that aren't like in powerful mind people. It's like two regular dudes discussing something like nature versus nurture, and it's like, well,
Hmm.
what boundaries of thought are we going to cross right now? Um, where are we going to go in this discussion that no one's been? And like Adam kind of hits him with like a metaphor. He's like, well, you can't turn a pig into a racehorse, and it's like that sounds good in your mind when you say it. If you think about it, like that's not really super applicable to our discussion about where do humans get their sense of right and wrong. Um, and then Samuel just retorts with, "You can make a fast pig," and it's like, don't entertain the metaphor, like
Yeah.
because now you lose, like because then Adam's
Every
like,
metaphor crumbles the further along you get into it.
yeah. So, um, quick nature versus nurture. Then they're sitting around. Adam discovers that the twins are not identical, and he kind of in a flash sees that one of them looks like Charles. And if you're Samuel, that's whatever. But we know
As
what
the
we know.
reader, that's
As the
eerie.
reader, you're like,
Oh no.
you're like, oh, a scientific thing has happened. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So he,
Yeah.
he sees one that looks like Charles. He's got a scar on his head. Just kidding.
That'd be
Um,
wild. That'd be way too on the nose
yeah.
from Johnny Stein.
Yeah, Johnny Stein. He likes it on the nose a little bit, but not that much. But yeah, so then they examine him and they're kind of going over their features, like, oh, look at this one, like he holds his head up better, and they're thinking of names, and it's like, well, we shouldn't name them based on what they look like now, because what if that's not what they're like? And like,
Hmm.
they're like, should we name them something aspirational for them to like try to grow
Reach for the
into?
stars. Yeah.
It is interesting the idea of like naming someone who's a year old, because my son is 3 months old. And even though it's a baby, and you would think like, how can you get to know a baby? Like, a baby has like a little personality. Um, and so
Hmm.
like he has his name, but like I don't know, like if we just hadn't named him and we had to name him today, 3 months later, like would we
Would
have
have been
given
the
him the
same
same
name.
name? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think that's one of the questions Steinbeck wants us to ponder, but I pondered it anyway. Um,
Hey, he says you can take and add to it to the story whatever you want.
there we go.
So.
Never mind. He did want me to ponder that, and I did. I played right into his hand as usual. Um, and then I don't. They're just like they're about to get into the Cain and Abel part. But like Samuel kind of starts talking. I don't even. I should probably reread this back. I was like, where did this come from? Where he just starts talking about how he lacks courage, and that's why he lives on like a dead, empty plot. Is he didn't have the courage to make something more, and like he says he's not a great man, and
Oh
him and
yeah,
Adam
where,
kind of
where
go
he
back and forth.
says, "I'll keep going."
Yeah, and so I don't know. I just thought it was interesting. I was like, that is an odd thing to say. And maybe it will get addressed more later. But like, I don't know, the idea that he's not a great man. I was kind of interested in what Samuel thinks it means to be great, because it does seem like he's got a very specific definition. Because he goes ahead and says that like none of his kids could be great. Like none of them are great except for
Mhm.
Tom. Like Tom might be great, and he
And
kind
he's
of
just struggling with it.
yeah he kind of ruminates on how like greatness is like a burden, and he's like Tom might be great, but like I wouldn't want that for him. Like and he says the phrase like a cold, lonely greatness. Um, it's just
Yeah,
I
the line that stood out to me is, "It's nice for a mediocre man to know that greatness must be the loneliest state in the world." So yeah, I kind of think it's just the musings of a man knowing that he might be approaching the end and is really contemplating, did I live a good, happy life in accordance to what I believe is right? But I think that there is a little bit of truth in here, just from what I see sometimes on LinkedIn of people aspiring to be great.
wait,
And
wait. This
every
is
now
this
and
is
then they're
this is
like,
Nate's take. This is
"This
this
is
is
Nate's
this is
take."
this is Nate's take. All right,
Okay, okay,
we have to
okay.
we actually have to leave cold, lonely greatness alone. I'm getting there. I think we're going in a very similar position, in a
Okay,
similar
okay,
direction with this. I was like, you're gonna step on it. All right.
okay.
Um. Anyway, then so then
I'll
they
just
get
add one thing
into
to lighten the mood real quick.
Okay.
I love that Lee gives the boys a drumstick to suck on. That totally
Hmm.
feels like a choking hazard. Like, what kind of peril has Lee put them in? Because I don't think he's a natural father.
That's like the they're gonna that's gonna be like the Netflix short for the thing. It's like Leave with the Babies,
Yeah,
uh, like and like it's just like him like losing them in the river, and
yeah.
like having
I
to
think
like
I just
chase.
the Incredibles, like the babysitter with the Jack Jack and just catching on fire, but not to
Very
that
similar,
extreme.
yes, and like he won't get in trouble for anything, but he does just like deep down inside himself care enough to be like, I better take care of these boys.
Yeah.
But he doesn't know how, right? He's never a parent.
No.
But anyway, then they start talking about names, and that's when they crack open the Bible, and they start talking Cain and Abel. And I think it's so interesting, like that Steinbeck it loves the Cain and Abel story because you would think from what we've read so far that the whole Bible is the Cain and Abel story. Like
For
that,
real.
the Bible's a big book, and like the Cain and Abel is
Steinbeck
like
has read the Bible from Genesis 1 to Genesis 4, verse 20, and
yes.
that's it.
Well, he even says here it's 16 verses, and he like it's the only biblical story. That's not fair. He mentions Samuel. Samuel mentions that he's named after Samuel. So other
True.
biblical stuff, but like we're 300 pages in now. It's a lot of Cain and Abel, and he like the
Hmm.
way he wanted to name them, Canable, and like
Canable.
we're
He says that this is like the universal story is the story of Cain and Abel. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, I guess in chapter 24 he really says that. Like,
Right.
um, I am struck by how much he loves uh, the Cain and Abel. And so they read the Cain and Abel story, and then, like almost anything from the Bible, they finish reading it, and they all kind of have different takeaways.
Hmm.
Like Lee and Samuel are more on the side of like, wow, what a heavy story. Like, like I think Samuel says he says it's dreadful, no single tone of encouragement, and then
Hmm.
Adam says it's comforting. Um, and this
And it's
this
like,
is this is
Adam, did you not generate that this is, you kind of lived this a little bit, dude. Is that why it's
Adam's,
comforting to you? You survived Cain in the Cain and Abel story of your life.
yeah, and it's interesting like that this is Adam's take because Adam's take is like, well, like he kind of nails something and then misses the point on another thing. Like he talks about how as human beings, like we are taught virtue and then we believe that we created sin each individually ourselves. And so it's like that is probably true. Like I think a
Hmm.
lot of people when they do good things, they don't necessarily feel like that's a reflection of who they are. Like maybe some people who are really good at justifying things, like they'll be like, "No, I am a good person." That like I think a lot of people I think a lot of people are really hard on themselves and like they kind of define themselves by their mistakes and when it comes to their sins or their shortcomings, like they feel like they invented those problems. And so Adam, reading this, like he arrives at the conclusion, like, well, like, since the beginning of humanity, people have struggled with this. Like, like there's been people committing sin. There's people behaving poorly. There's people doing bad things. And he's
Yeah.
like, see, and so like that, I feel like that's a good insight. Like, oh, like it probably weighed on Adam like throughout his life, like all the bad things he did, and like like
Hmm.
goodness comes from somewhere else, the badness comes from me, is kind of was his understanding. And so
Yeah.
now he's read this and he's like, oh no, like goodness and badness. I feel like a child saying goodness and badness. I can't think of other words for it, but goodness and badness. Like I'm 5. Like they both they're both within you, and you know you do both of them. Like you're not one or
Yeah.
the other. So
Yeah.
I feel like that's
I
a
thought
good
Adam
insight from
was,
him.
I thought another insight too that Adam was drawing on top of what you said is that this guilt I'm feeling can be necessary to push me to correct myself. It's like in Corinthians, I think it's called godly sorrow. Like this, that you feel this way, and it's this feeling that comes from deity to push you to repent and turn back towards God. And so I wonder if Adam is sort of recognizing that, like, I'm just loving being a sad sack on my fallow farm. I can actually take this and do something good with it.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, so he has what I would call a good insight from the story. But then the other one, he's basically like, "There's nothing we can do. Like we inherit the sin." And it's I'm like, I don't think that's what you're supposed to take away from this. That like, like mankind has fallen, and it is interesting. Like I don't know if it's in this chapter, chapter 24, where they talk about Cain and Abel some more, but like they all seem to be under, and maybe this is what Steinbeck believes, but like they all seem to be under the idea that like, well, Abel didn't have any children when he died, so we're all children of Cain.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah,
and
that does come up, and
yeah, I don't
I was
believe
looking that up,
that's
and I think we can believe that Cain didn't have any children for biblically, and that Adam lived to be 900, and he has another son named Seth. And I think that a lot of biblical scholars think that the lineage comes through Seth, and then the flood happens.
yeah, no, yeah, that's all I was gonna say is that I believe the popular notion from people that study this sort of stuff is that Cain and Abel were not Adam's only children.
Hmm.
They're just the ones that have their own story. So,
Yeah.
but
So yeah,
they do
this
say they say they're children of Cain, which I think is
yeah.
wrong. Um,
Yeah,
but
I
anyway,
think that sometimes Steinbeck had a very surface level understanding of the Bible, and he liked picking what he liked out of it more than anything.
hmm,
He was like a mix of Liza and Samuel. Well, Liza just read it, and Sam really chewed on it, and I think that Steinbeck only chews on the parts he thinks look delicious
I like the
from the
Cain and Abel
Bible,
story. He loves it.
like the
He
Cain
loves the Cain
Abel.
and Abel story.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and this one is where I almost did a Nate's take, but I kind of wrote out what I thought my thoughts would be is way too long. I scrapped it. I scrapped the Nate's take surrounding this. Um, but I don't know. I think to kind of boil it down into just a couple sentences, I promise I won't kill us on this. But
I think it's worse to be killed on this. I think this is a really important part.
yeah. I just think it's interesting, like the way that they're all talking about this passage in the Bible, and they're all bringing their own experience into it, and this is what it's like to have religious discussions, and I think when I look around at the people that I know in my life, and then what you see, in media and stuff, like I'll just feel sometimes like I'm on a bit of like a faith island, and where it's like I think there's people that they would, if they had it their way, they would throw away all the religion stuff, and they would take nothing from the Bible, and I don't think that's correct. I think there's a lot, whether you are someone of faith or not. I think there's a lot you can take that's good from the Bible. I think the teachings of Jesus Christ are very valuable. um I think they are, and I think if people lived according to those teachings, the world would be a significantly better place. But then on the other side of the spectrum, I see people that are wound so tight around religion and the Bible, um and just I don't know, the way they like there's there's people that kind of interpret things so intensely, um and I don't know how to articulate this briefly, but I just think that's the wrong way to do it too. But then also I think there's people that kind of read through the Bible, and they do kind of like you said with Steinbeck, they just kind of take what they want and they create this like version of religion where it's like it's actually just fine to do whatever you want all the time. I don't think that's correct. And so like just kind of reading through this discussion that they have, like it just felt very familiar to me. Like all these people kind of all read the same exact passage, all drawing different conclusions. Um, everyone in their mind, I I think believes that they're doing things the correct way. Like I don't think there are. Well, I don't know, but yeah, I just thought it was interesting that they all read these same 16 verses, and they're all pulling away such
Hmm.
different takeaways here. Um,
Yeah,
and
and
it's
Adam
just kind of
takeaway
the
that
nature of religion and the Bible that this happens, right? So,
yeah,
but
that's
go
why there's
ahead.
so
You had
many
something.
churches. Yeah, I was gonna say a takeaway that Adam has that I think is really interesting is where he says, "I remember being a little outraged at God. Both Cain and Abel gave what they had, and God accepted Abel and rejected Cain. I never thought that was a just thing. I never understood it." And I thought this was an interesting take by Adam because Adam's offering of the dog to his father Cyrus is the one that's accepted. He wasn't ever the one that got gypped by his own dad, but I think he still recognized that his dad maybe treated Charles's offering a little bit unfairly, and I think he's processing that through the story of Cain and Abel. And a few things that stood out to me as I read these 16 verses with this group of three around the table was that God never, like, God didn't accept Cain's offering, and then Cain just went and got super mad. And it makes it sound like here that Cain could have had a chance to go find the correct offering, a better offering. And I'd never thought of it that way before. I thought that Cain's offering was just outright rejected, no
Mm-hmm.
chance for redemption. But this is still saying Cain had a choice. He, but it wasn't a good offering. All good offerings should be accepted. Cain had the choice to go find a better offering, but instead he chose to go kill his brother. So that was an insight for me as I was reading this I had never thought of for the Cain and Abel story. And one
Yeah.
other thing too that I thought was interesting was that Cain's curse was it included not being able to successfully till the land, and that feels like a curse that Adam has.
He's got his fallow farm.
Yeah.
Um,
So Adam and Charles, like they're both taking bits and pieces of some are like Cain, some are like Abel, like in how they've lived their life. It's not a one-to-one. Charles is Cain and Adam is Abel. They kind of are blended a little bit more.
yeah, no, for sure. Excellent. Yeah. So
But go
then,
on.
kind of following this discussion, they do a little bit more talk about like Lee kind of brings in some Chinese stuff, um, where he kind of compare, and we'll get into this more in chapter 24 because Lee comes back again with some of these old Chinese, I think they're poems that he says. But he does talk about how I don't know they kind of had this they kind of started talking about animals and they mentioned that the human is the only guilty animal. Like all the other animals, they run around and they mate and they kill each other and they eat each other and like it's just life and like humans everything they do like impacts them so intensely emotionally and they feel this guilt and like that's what Lee kind of defines as like the soul is like in this guilt that you feel. Um,
Yeah.
and so they talk about that and then they jump in. Then they're like, all right, we better name these kids. And
The sun's
so
going down. Got to name them.
yeah, they kind of jump to it.
Part two is ending. We
Um,
have to name these kids.
yeah, we got to name them right real quick. They name them in one page. It's basically like, all right, like, well, let's name them after the people that followed Moses out of Egypt. And it's real. It's just like 1-2 punch. It's like, all right, well, there's Caleb and Joshua, and they do take Caleb. He doesn't take Joshua because Joshua's a soldier.
hmm
Um, and then Aaron, Moses' brother Aaron, is the other one. And then bing bang
Well,
boom, their
they
names.
kind of let the kids accept their names a little bit. They say, well, what about Caleb? And then Caleb starts to cry, and they're like, I think he heard his name.
Yeah, yeah, and it is just for record keeping. Caleb is the dark one, and Aaron is uh, the less developed, right? Kind of
Yeah.
smaller, light baby.
Yep.
Um, and that's them.
Yeah. And there was quite it seemed foreshadowing where when they talked about Aaron, they're like, hey, Aaron, I've always liked, but he didn't make it to the promised land.
Yeah.
Samuel, I don't know if I would bring that up right now. If I
It's
was
like
Adam,
he
I would
did.
have said, we actually maybe need to change the name. I don't like that premonition there that he didn't make it to the promised land.
Adam's like, what? Well, he's like, well, who made it? Like, let's.
hmm
Oh yeah, it is funny that they mentioned that he mentions that Liza likes the crashing of the walls of Jericho, um, because I like that story. That's a fun story in the Bible. I liked
hmm
that episode of VeggieTales.
I
Um,
like I like when it's referenced in the first Iron Man, where he calls the missile the Jericho, and then all
there you
the
go. See,
stuff falls behind him. Yeah,
yeah. All
bulky,
right. Well,
meaty chapter.
very very meaty.
And now I'm going to go real quick, and we're just going to hand it back to you.
A little bit of my own medicine.
Good. Chapter 23. It's a bit of a. Oh, this starts part three actually. I think that's worth noting. that this starts part three, and unlike parts one and two, their introductory chapters, this one isn't like, and now we've talked about the turn of the century, and let me recall some of these themes I've talked about of old man yells at cloud because they don't like the way the youth are today. It's a little bit of a different start of a part for this, but it's the
Mm-hmm.
Hamilton family tree update, and we get to know Una a little bit, Sam's favorite daughter. She and him both share a real deep love for learning, a little bit of a secret learning, because Liza's probably making sure that they're not picking too much at the Bible. And she marries a man named Anderson, and Anderson is like the exact opposite of the Hamiltons. He's There's some line that says, while the Hamiltons fly to heights, they also have really big falls. And Anderson didn't fly and he didn't fall. He's just very much a flatlined kind of life. And I think that Steinbeck is maybe critiquing that kind of living of a life because Anderson doesn't seem great because Una goes out to live with him and she dies out there. He's also poor. He's like the struggling artist waiting for color photography. And Una dies out there living with Anderson, and her beauty's been stripped away from her body. And so Anderson doesn't seem like that great of a guy, I would say.
Interesting that he's a photographer. I feel like that's kind of an artsy type.
Yeah.
It's like I would have thought like, oh, this Anderson guy kind of drained her. It's like, oh, was he like the foreman of a factory? And it's like, no, he was a photographer.
Hmm.
You know how they do. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, yeah, that was sad.
So sad start, and this death wrecks Sam, and we see that in the next chapter too. Um, and one thing that I got from this, contrasting what we just learned about with Sam and Lee and Adam, where they're talking about what do we pass down to our children? This nature versus nurture. Will my children have some of this blood of Kathy's? And then in here, it doesn't seem like it seems like a lot of Sam and Liza's children are a little bit tragic in a way. Their life maybe starts out great when they're living with their parents, who are pretty good parents for the most part, but then they don't end up being like Sam, or they don't end up being like Liza, or Una ends up dead and stripped of her beauty, and Desi falls in love later, and all of the passion and fun out of her gets completely drained. And so I think it was just a little bit of a reminder that despite parents definitely passing some traits on and beliefs to their children, children are still responsible for their own actions and susceptible to the consequences of others. You can only pass down so much to your children. So, yeah, there's even a really good quote by Sam. You'd think with the same training and the same blood they'd be alike, but they're not. He says that in chapter 24. So I thought that was good. And this chapter here, and this was something that I was like, should I tell Nate about this in the beginning of our reading, or should I let it be a surprise? And I figured I'd let it be a surprise for us and not talk about it leading up to the chapter, because when I was reading it for the first time, it was a surprise. Whoa, this is Steinbeck and the Hamiltons are real? Like, Olive is actually Steinbeck's mom, and Sam is actually his grandfather, and all these people are real. And I'll get more into this in the Steinbeck stats, because there's
Mm-hmm.
been a bunch in the first half of this book where he's talking about why he wants to write about the Hamiltons and his family. But I just think it's just so cool to have. I think it's one of the reasons it's one of my favorite books is Steinbeck's like, I'm going to tell this story about Cain and Abel over generations, but I'm going to contrast it with my family's history and my family tree. I'm going to put in
Mm-hmm.
actual true stories, and I'm going to pretend that I know how my grandfather would interact with a man like Adam Trask and his crazy family. So I thought it was great. Did it come as a shock to you, or have you been kind of thinking this has got to be Steinbeck?
I did not come as a shock. I forgot that it was like a big reveal. like I think I had just been kind of calling the narrator Steinbeck. Like I think if you listen back to the old episodes, you'll hear me be like, "Well, so Steinbeck says," and I'm like, "Well, the narrator says," and then like
Yeah,
I think I just kind of blended it in, and I was like, It's him, sure. It's him until it's not, and then it was."
yeah. It's just if you're reading this really lightly, you might not even pick up that it's Steinbeck because he says like there's a real. It's like, and what was it, 279 is where I wrote it down. Is where he's talking to Tom, his uncle Tom, and Tom says, "Thank you, John." And you're like, "Oh, okay, interesting." And then later on, we hear for the Thanksgiving story that there's Olive and Ernest Steinbeck. And then that's like the rest you hear in the entire story where you have to kind of like piece it together. Okay, the narrator's name is John. John is the son of Olive, and Olive married a Steinbeck. This is John Steinbeck. So just kind of fun. I don't know if it's a massive reveal, but I think it's just a really light way to introduce it. But another character here in chapter 23 is Tom. And I like what Steinbeck recalls about his uncle Tom. He says it's the result of memory plus what I know it to be true, plus conjecture built on the combination. And kind of what I was talking about earlier of Adam and his creation of Kathy. I think that's how we know and remember everyone in our lives. It just gets reiterated here. But Tom is kind of an interesting guy. He's the one that Sam thinks is struggling with choosing greatness or having to choose not being great, but maybe being happy. And Tom has these interactions with John Steinbeck and his sister Mary, because his sister Mary wants to turn into a boy, and they think they know Uncle Tom. They think Uncle Tom will know how to fix it. And Tom just kind of gives the answer of, you don't really want to be a boy. I like you as a girl. And of course, this really upsets Mary because that's not the answer she thought her Uncle Tom would give her. And so it's just this, I don't know, there's nothing really meaningful to the overall plot of the story, but it's just more fun stories that Steinbeck's leaving about his family. So
Yeah.
Tom, he's described as being earthbound, also heavy and earthbound. And that made me think of Steinbeck's logo of the pig with wings, where he says, I want to reach for the stars despite being earthbound. And so I wonder if Tom was sort of like an anti-inspiration for him of like, I need to be a little bit more aspirational than my Uncle Tom was, even though I recognize that I am earthbound.
They've compared him to Samuel throughout the book, and then in this chapter they go out of their way to kind of point out some differences. They're like, he wasn't as gay as Samuel. He wasn't as jovial. Like
Mm-hmm.
he drank more. Like he wasn't as good looking. Like just kind of all these differences, mostly shortcomings, um, between him and Samuel. Um, and then it just kind of describes like his relationship, like with his brothers and sisters. And maybe you're about to get into this, so I'll try not to step on it too much. But like how Will tries to like get him into business, and like he just doesn't care for it. He doesn't really see the value in it, and like he does enjoy being with his sister, and then she gets into a relationship and kind of loses the fun, and that really sets him off. um and then after all, he is the one that's like stayed with the parents. Like everyone's left except for him. And so he's like the still live with your parents guy. It's less weird back then because people did that to grow up on a farm. But
Yeah.
um, wow, it's an interesting guy.
Yeah.
But
So we'll
yeah,
see if we
good.
learn more about Tom later on. But I think the back half of this chapter is probably the most important, and it's where it's the Thanksgiving of 1911, and all of Sam and Liza's children are there, and they, for the first time, they start to notice how old their parents are. And they kind of start to blame Tom a little bit. He becomes the scapegoat really easily. You're here. You should have known. Why didn't you tell us?
Why didn't you stop them from aging? Like, you
Yeah, how could you
idiot.
not reverse this? Natural part of life. And of course,
Yeah.
Una's death has really pressed down upon Sam. And after apologizing for getting mad at one another, they actually kind of concoct a plan. And the idea is that Tom will run the ranch. I think it's worth noting too that Tom doesn't fully agree with this plan, but the plan is that Tom will run the ranch, and then they'll all sort of take turns inviting their parents to stay with them. So Olive and Ernest Steinbeck, they'll invite them to Salinas for 3 months, and all of a sudden they'll get a letter from another sibling inviting them, and that's how they'll start to take care of their family, of their parents. And I think it's a pretty good plan. But even as they were talking about it, I was thinking Sam has got to see right through this immediately. Like I don't think you can pull the wool over Sam's eyes on this plan.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. I say the word interesting so much.
It's an interesting book.
But when I was reading it, I was like, this is a nice plan, but I was like, you better be pretty sure your parents are about to die for you to be enacting this plan. Like, I've struggled throughout the book to like keep track of how old everybody is. But like, if Samuel was still well digging and like helping people give birth 11 years ago, because that was around the turn of the century when the twins were born.
Yep.
Um, like he can't be that old now. Like he wasn't digging wells at 75. I don't think. Like how
I
old
think
do you
I
think
think age
Samuel
just
is?
I think
And
age can just
he's
really creep up on you. Like he could have been great 2 years
yeah no
ago, and
that
now all of a sudden he's not doing
the
great.
the late 50s into early 60s does feel like a big jump. Um, but the I don't know, like the idea that you're gonna like that you between your siblings you're just gonna have your parents stay with you all forever. It seems ambitious.
Hmm.
Like what if they live 20 more years? And like that's moving around the country is a lot of work for old people. Like
Yeah.
you're gonna make your parents move every 6 months for 20 years. Like that sounds way worse than living on a ranch by themselves.
Hmm.
But maybe they are just about to die. Maybe they've got like 2 years left. If they got like 2 year and a half, 2 years,
Hmm.
that's fine. That's like a farewell tour.
Yeah. Yeah. This does
If
feel like
they're
a
like,
conversation that is. I think they're about to die from the kids. I think they're thinking that. So.
I mean, but I don't know. Like you'd have to be pretty certain that's like
Well, even Sam at the end of the chapter when he talks to Tom, he lets him know that his life is coming to an end soon. I think that he's definitely in
I
the
guess
twilight of his life. Even Sam knows he's almost out.
but he's still moving around. Like I feel like I don't know, maybe I'm thinking in a modern context where people can just be bedridden for the last like 5 years of their lives. Um, but like
Yeah,
I feel
they're
like
not
that's
Charlie
kind of how
Bucket's
it goes.
grandparents.
I feel like that's kind of like normally you're not like wow they might only have a year left while they're still like leaving the house and riding a horse,
Yeah,
um, which he is still right. So I don't know.
yeah.
I mean Steinbeck's telling the story, so that must be what happened.
It
So
must have been what's happened. Yeah.
I
So
I yeah I might be overthinking this one. Um,
maybe it's good to
yeah.
ponder though. But so to wrap this chapter up, because the next chapter is meaty. Um, Sam gets the first letter from Olive, and Tom sort of watches him read the letter. And the narrator notes that there's a gray, nervous cloud scurrying eastward as he's reading the letter, which I kind of found some symbolism in. That maybe Sam is being kicked out of his little garden, not physically going east, but there's like the east comparison of Cain leaving the garden and heading east. So I think it could have just been another. There has to be a reason why Steinbeck said that this cloud was traveling east while he's reading this letter. And then Sam tells Liza that I think that this is the plan the kids have. They agree to it. Another little funny 1 to 2 page quarrel where he hands her a dish towel, says this is a handkerchief, and she's like, "Nope, this is actually a dish towel." And he's like, "I'm just trying to comfort you here. Just accept the dish towel as a handkerchief." And at the end of the chapter, Sam asks Tom, "Is this a plan that you and your siblings are up to?" And Tom says yes. Sam thanks him for the honesty and lets him know that he thinks his life is coming to an end soon. And that's how chapter 24 starts to begin.
All right, yeah. Yeah, so chapter 24 starts off Samuel is preparing to leave the ranch forever. Um, he talks to the neighbors, kind of lets them know. And then he goes down to the Trask place. He's like, I gotta go see the Trasks. Um, so he goes down there. He sees Lee. Lee's got some news. He doesn't have to have his cue anymore. So now he's talking with his American accent, and I'm assuming he's got a sweet do.
Probably.
Um, Yeah, so he probably looks very handsome. The it's funny like he does. I thought it was funny that he like informed her this is like the Dowager Empress is gone, and I was like, what would that mean to Samuel Hamilton? like Samuel
Yeah.
Hamilton's like finally like I've been waiting.
Yeah. I've been keeping up with world news too, Lee. I'm happy for you.
Maybe of all people, maybe Samuel Hamilton's the only person that he could talk to about the Dowager Empress. Um,
Probably. Good point.
anyway, so he comes down and he meets the kids, and like it's interesting because like when we last we're getting probably about a 10-year time jump from last we met Adam, and it did seem like Adam was um, like he thanked Samuel for like waking him up.
Hmm.
But he goes down to the ranch and he still hasn't grown anything. Like it's mostly a dead farm. Adam is still not really moved on, and I think it's we one thing that we see. I did not say I think it's interesting. One thing that we see over and over again is that Samuel consistently calls out pretty much anyone, but mostly Adam because that's who we see him interact with for wallowing in their sorrows. Like, and in the early chapters, he's like, oh, like, are you proud of how sad you are? Like, does it make you feel, does it?
Large
I
and
guess in this one, he,
tragic.
he says, like, does it make you feel big and tragic? Like you're a movie, like I'm adding to it now. Like, oh, like, are you sitting by the window, like imagining you're in a music video, like, like he kind of prods at him. He's like, you got to stop this. But like, 10 years is a long time wallowing.
Hmm.
Um, And anyway, he meets the boys, and true to what you would expect, one of them is a little bit Charles-like. He's kind of dark. Um, Lee mentions that like he finds himself defending him, that he's fighting for his life, and Lee doesn't really expand on that very much. But like, so one of the kids, a bit darker, a bit probably it says watchful is the word. Like, so maybe he's a bit shy
Distrustful.
and yeah, take like standoffish maybe is the
Yeah.
word. Um, and then the other one, Aaron, is I think it's interesting what the way Lee describes him here. He says he's a boy you like before he speaks and like more afterwards, um, which is
A high
interesting.
compliment.
Yeah, that's a nice thing for someone to say about you. Because I take back what I just said because I just said like you would think, but it really wasn't. Like when they were describing the two 1-year olds and what they were like I kind of assumed that the Charles son would be the strong one and be the one that was like a people person and like aggressive,
Hmm.
and that the son of Adam would be kind of like Adam as a child and kind of sickly and behind, and but it seems like it went the other way. It seems like Aaron is the more likable, more personable of the two, and um, Charles's son. I guess we don't officially know that it's Charles's son, but I'm going with it as a prediction. Charles's son is an oddball.
One thing I'll add, to kind of talk about how Cal and Aaron are is Cal is portrayed by James Dean in the 1950s movie,
Huh?
and we all know James Dean was kind of a sex
He's
symbol back
brooding.
then. Yeah.
Yeah, sexy.
So
Also interesting that he goes by Cal and his name's Caleb. I didn't know that Caleb could go by Cal.
yeah,
I assume he's not going by Kale. Um,
yeah, yeah. I
but
thought that was
maybe
interesting
he
too, and,
is.
and I made a note of it that they both adjust their names a lot, like how Kathy becomes Catherine, then Kathy, then Kate, and I was like, is this a little bit of a part of Kate that's trickled down to them because Caleb's Cal and Aaron removes an A from his name.
That is a funny thing to do.
Yeah.
Adam again asked about Kathy. 10 years later, bro, gotta let her go. And Samuel kind of dodges the question. He's like, I heard a rumor, I didn't believe it, yada yada. Um, the so yeah, and so then Samuel's talking about his land, and Adam's like, I won't do anything with my land if I don't want to.
Hmm.
And then Samuel's like, well, I'm leaving forever, and that makes Adam that's like that kind of
That's the
jolts
first
Adam. I
jolt.
imagine,
Yeah,
yeah, I imagine Samuel's pretty much Adam's only friend of like the last like 15 years of his life,
for sure.
maybe ever. maybe ever. If you exclude Charles because they were brothers, is Samuel Adams' only friend in his life?
He's got to be. Nobody in the
Because
road gang gets named.
Lee works for him. He's
Yeah,
not a friend. They might be friendly, but like that's an employee. Um,
yeah. He's
and so
definitely
then
the only friend.
so it kind of jolts Adam up, and he's like, "Whoa, whoa, like you can't leave." He's like, "I want you to, I want." And he like get and like it kind of like revamps his ideas for the land again. He's like, I need to dig a well. I need to like have an orchard." Like he
Well,
kind of
and
starts
his thoughts
dreaming
are, I
again
need
for his
you to
land.
do all these things for me. It's not even like
Yeah, that is true.
I'll start doing this. It's like, no, but you have all these things that you need to do for my well being. He
Yeah,
still doesn't want to
yeah.
do anything himself.
Nah, he's such a bum. Um, and then Samuel's response. This is why I thought that. Well, beyond there being a whole chapter about him, I was like, well, Tom must be pretty important because Samuel's like, just ask my son Tom. And
Hmm.
I was like, oh boy,
Oh,
here we go.
buckle up.
like Tom basically sliding right into Samuel's role as the Trask helper guy. Um, anyway, so that's kind of how that would end. So he's like, you'll have to ask Tom. I'm out. I'm done.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and then cut to them eating. Uh, Samuel meets the boys a little bit more. He gets to know them. Aaron's got pet rabbits. Cal, as I could tell, barely said anything.
Yeah, Kyle doesn't say much, and Aaron wants to give one of the rabbits to his father for his birthday.
That's
So
similar to how Adam gave his dad a
yeah,
dog. So
the cycle is
we'll
repeating.
see.
It's starting to
Cal
repeat.
does said Cal does because Adam says that Aaron says that the a lot of A names. Aaron says that the rabbits are a secret, and then Cal's like, I have a secret too. And I don't think he ever says it even. Does he ever say it?
I don't think
I don't think
so.
he says. Yeah, we it's still a secret. Good job, Cal. Um, but anyway,
What do
then
you think his
so
secret is, or do you think he was just saying it to fit in?
mm, I bet he knows who his mom is. If it's a secret we don't get to hear about right away. Um, but anyway, in the second half of this dinner, they kind of jump back into their Cain and Abel discussion. Lee comes out and he's like, "I have done some studying," um,
Hmm.
and he's basically gone through and looked at the translations because this is an interesting thing with the Bible, especially the Old Testament, is that it's been translated and retranslated so many times that like different languages translate different words to mean different things, and it can change the meaning. And he gets fixated on this difference between thou shalt and thou mayest. And basically what he's kind of drawing is that like if it's thou shalt, that is a commandment. And so it can mean either you have to do these things or no matter what you do, this will happen. And so and he kind of points to some people reading it as thou shalt and then living their lives like like it's all predetermined, like no matter what they do, what's going to happen is going to happen, or living or reading that and live and being like, I have to do this because I've been commanded to.
Hmm.
And he said like the translation that he found that he believes is true is that it's thou mayest, and he says the key there is that you have a choice. And so he kind of says like that's what it is to have a human soul, is to have a choice. And I think it's such. I'm gonna say it one more time. That's so interesting, and like, because like that is what I believe. Like I believe the most important thing we do here on this earth is make our own choices. Like that's the ultimate freedom. That's like our ultimate power as human beings is that we we make our own judgments. We do what we feel is correct, and there's no one making us do anything. Like there's
Hmm.
no one's being forced by a divine power to behave in any way. Like we're here on Earth, make your own choices. You have your own agency. You are what you do, and So I think it's cool because, like you said, I like reading this. It's kind of hard to kind of understand where Steinbeck's coming from as far as religion and God. But like, I think it's cool that he kind of through these characters came to that conclusion that that's the most important thing is the choice.
Hmm.
Um, yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
it's
know if that occurred to you.
yeah, the thou mayest thing will be a lot of my East of Ethan, but
Okay,
it's
okay.
it's one of the parts of the book that resonated with me so much that for a while on my Kindle I had a sticker that said Tim shall thou mayest. Because it's
Oh,
just one of my favorite messages. And of course I believed this before I read this book. You and I share a lot of similar beliefs, but I really just like the way it's presented that chew on the scripture a little bit, find the meaning that makes the most sense, and this meaning to me does make the most sense when he's comparing the King James thou shalt or the American Standard as an order. Lee is just awesome when it comes to this. And
yeah,
then being able to transcribe it from you have the choice to rule over sin to if you have the choice to rule over sin, you have the choice to do anything. Even through the filth of life. What does he say? He does something like that where through the filth of life or anything else, you can choose to make the best of it. So
yeah,
the glory is the choice, is what he says. It's
yeah.
great.
No, I think that's a great. It is great. Thou mayest. I like it. I like it as a slogan. It's mine now. I've taken it. But yeah, and so they finish up that discussion. Great discussion. Good job, guys. Really bringing it home. The but anyway, so then after that, Samuel's getting ready to go, and as he's kind of getting up his horse, they're talking about how old it is, how ugly it is, and Adam kind of makes probably what he thinks is a passing comment of like, yeah, you ought to put it out of its misery, like, which is what a lot of people say when they see an old animal like struggling to live, and Samuel, it's so funny how like I can like feel how these conversations go, even though they're worded a little bit more old timey, but like Samuel kind of hears him say that, and he's kind of like, so, do you think if something bad needs to happen to someone, like it should just happen then? Like, and Adam's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, of course. And he's like, oh, okay, well, I know where your wife is. Like, and like, I was like, and that was a surprise, right? Like, tell me I didn't miss this, but like, we didn't before we read that, we didn't know that Samuel knew what Kathy was up to,
Nope.
right? That was a
Nope, we
surprise
didn't. That was a
because like
surprise.
I that's what I thought. I read it and I was like, oh my gosh, he knows. And I was like, should I have known that already? And I like went back and like read the like I like reread a couple pages. I was like, I don't see where he saw, but like
Hmm.
it just happens off screen.
And
Screen.
and it makes so much
Um,
sense that he would be one to find out because so many of the people in the community trust him and they're
mhm.
always talking with him, and so of course it made its way to him that this happened.
Yeah. No,
I'm
yeah, and
sure it was.
I
I'm sure
think
it
I
was
was
more of something like Faye's place used to be awesome. Now it sucks. Only the
just
degenerates go there.
yeah, and you mentioned this in our last one where you were like, you asked me when it was time for my predictions. You were like, what do you think she's gonna do with the whorehouse? Like, what do you think it's gonna be like? And I did not predict this. I don't think.
You
But
did. You
what he
said
describes.
total iron fist running a phase, running it like the Navy. I think that's
Well,
similar
no,
to what.
I meant that she was gonna be like mean to the other whores that she was like
Ah,
being pretending to be nice to. Like instead, it like I don't know. I'll read the description. It sounds way worse. Like
it is. Yeah.
it
Okay. I'll
says,
put it in orange in our spreadsheet. No longer
okay,
green.
yeah. Adam, Kathy is in Salinas. She owns a whorehouse, the most vicious and depraved in the whole end of the country. The evil and ugly, the distorted and slimy, the worst things humans can think up are for sale there. The crippled and crooked come there for satisfaction. But it is worse than that. Kathy, and she is now called Kate, takes the fresh and young and beautiful and so maims them that they can never be whole again. It's like, wow. Like, this, I feel like these chapters, the past two pods we've done, like, we read about, it's kind of been like Kathy gearing up to get as evil as possible. And then Samuel at the same time, kind of like his lights kind of fading out and And so I feel like in the next section of the book, it's going to be like Kathy, like at like her peak evil, and we'll kind of see what Tom and Adam and the twins are able to come up with to withstand her. So, um, and that's really the end of it. I mean, it kind of ends with Sam and Lee saying their goodbyes, and then end of the chapter.
Yeah, yeah, and I like how at the end of the chapter, Sam says that it was the Tim Shell message that brought him to tell Adam about Kathy. And I also kind of think that it could have been a little bit that Tom told Sam the truth about the plan that the kids had all came up with. And so maybe it's just another way that Sam's passing down that respect to Adam as he bids him farewell.
Yeah, yeah, I think so.
Cool.
All right. Well, it's my turn, right? Nate's takes.
Nate's takes.
All
Yes.
right. So my take for today. So my take has to do with Samuel talking about the cold, lonely greatness that Tom is fighting with, and I don't even know if it's a take as much as like I just have so many questions about this, and maybe they'll be unveiled later. But I wanted to kind of talk about it some more because I was intrigued by the idea that Samuel doesn't think he has the greatness, that he wasn't courageous. Because, like, I don't know, you think about what makes someone great. Like, you know, there there's so many different things, but like Samuel in his life, like he traveled across the world, he immigrated to a new country, he staked out his own land, he overcame obstacles, he raised a family, he's important in his community. Like I'm curious what he believes is greatness because like at first I was like, okay, well, like does he think that in order to have greatness you have to have accumulated wealth? Like it doesn't seem like that's what he would think it would be based on how he acts. Like
Yeah.
does he think it's like having power? Like but then when he talks about Will and when he talks about Tom and how Tom's the only one who might have greatness, like his other kids have money. His other kids have status. And he's like, nope, it's Tom, the one who's at home reading. He might be great. And like he talks about how like Tom doesn't have the head for business, and I did also like that like it talks about like Will trying to get him into gambling, and he's like, this sucks. Like,
Yeah.
he's like, there's no joy in winning and no sadness in losing. Like, what am I doing here? And like he has the same kind of disdain for business. I'm looking for the exact. I wrote it down. Um, but yeah, like Will tries to show him all these things, Will and George, but like he has no interest in gambling, in business, in outwitting other men, in bluffing and lying. And so it seems like Samuel's definition of greatness is not having money, it's not, being in charge. Like I don't think he thinks that Tom's going to be the president or like that Tom's going to like be an important political
Change the
figure.
world. Yeah.
And so like yeah, like so if it's not money or power that makes someone great, like wouldn't it be what Samuel did? Like wouldn't it be raising a large family and of kids that you can be proud of, that respect you and appreciate you? Like isn't that kind of greatness? I'm like, but he says it's not. He says he's not great, and none of his kids are. And so like I don't know, what is this greatness that you're after? What is it? And you kind of mentioned like the LinkedIn stuff. Like I think like kind of in connection with Tom not being interested in business and that sort of thing. Like I think in link you mentioned LinkedIn, like you do see so many people out there like pursuing greatness, and like their idea of pursuing greatness is like this great career where they've climbed a corporate ladder or they're an entrepreneur, and I don't know, like I think I feel a little bit similar to Tom, where like when I'm reading about a great business victory, like every time I'm reading about like the the story of someone that started their own company, or like the story of someone that like became a CEO, it's like, oh, like this kind of just boils down to you exploited somebody. It's like, oh, you like, oh, you took advantage of somebody, and and that's why you're really rich now. Like, oh
Yeah,
you got super lucky one time, and now you're the richest man in the world. Like,
you
like
joined the right
I
startup
feel
on the
like
ground floor. Yeah,
I just feel like very rarely when I'm reading about business success stories that I'm filled with like, wow, what a genius. It's like, oh wow, you were kind of gross to people, and then got really lucky. um, and maybe that's why I'm not a successful business person. But like, I agree that that's not where greatness is. But like, where's this greatness?
yeah. And I was even thinking of some posts I've seen where people broadcast on the internet, I missed my family photos. And this has caused me to recalibrate and rethink about how often I should be working. And, but I do it for them. So is it okay to miss my family photos if I'm missing it to make money for them? And it's like, you sound really weird saying this on the internet right now. Just work this out in your own thoughts. And also,
And
yes, that's bad. Clearly, you're living a lonely life pursuing this greatness.
it's not that great. It's not that great. I'm not impressed.
Yeah.
Um, the other thing, like I'm still like working through it. Like I'm like it's not education because like if like schooling or like building your mind made you great, like wouldn't it be Joe? Like Joe went to college, like
Right.
but the only child he sees greatness in is Tom. Like what is this greatness?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's kind of my take. I was just kind of mystified by it, especially after reading the chapter about Tom, and I was like, okay, this is the great son. This is the son with greatness, and I was like, what? Where is he pulling this from? Like, is this building to
Yeah.
something that he's gonna do later? I don't know,
Yeah, it is
but
it is
that's it.
interesting. And it's maybe the thought of, can greatness be achieved? If somebody who is as great as Sam seems like one of the greatest men to ever walk the earth. And if he doesn't see greatness in himself, can anyone achieve greatness? Kind of a sad thought,
Yeah, I don't
but
know. I think if you travel across the world pretty much and make a living in a desert valley and raise 9 children that love you so much that they're willing to take care of you in your twilight years, and
mhm,
invent a bunch of stuff. Pretty great. Pretty
pretty
great to
great.
me, I think.
I
I
agree.
don't know. But let's hear the East of Ethan.
East of Ethan. Okay, my East of Ethan and Steinbeck Stats kind of blend together a little bit, but East of Ethan is about Tim Timshil, and kind of what I've seen online is people talk about the fact that Steinbeck could have possibly mistranslated it with this meaning that Lee comes up with. So Lee is talking about the differences in the King James Version, the American Standard Version. Is it a promise that will rule over sin? Is it a commandment? And yeah, sure, it's a great lesson, and I think it comes at the right time of we can think about what we've seen in the back half of the book, and now we can really think about this moving forward for the final 300 pages. But people are saying that Steinbeck maybe got the translation wrong. And Steinbeck, in his Journal of a Novel, even said that he went to some Hebrew scholars to try to figure out the translation. So he says, they translated it, thou mayest. This means that at least there is a difference of opinion, and that is enough for me. And if there is an argument, I am all right. He says, words are strange, elusive things, and no man may permanently stick them on pins or mount them in glass cases. May is a curious word in English. In the negative, it is an order, but in the positive, it allows choice. Thou mayest not is definite, but thou mayest implies either way. So he went to go try to find a translation, and even his editor was like, instead of saying thou mayest, can you just say thou canst? What if you said that instead? And he's like, well, you're not a Hebrew scholar. I went to Hebrew scholars, and they said it's thou mayest.
Thou
So
canst does not have aura. There's no aura in
it
thou canst.
it doesn't sound biblical. Thou canst.
No, thou mayest. Thou
Yeah.
mayest.
So I kind of like that Steinbeck thought if there's arguments, that's the whole point. Because the men in the novel kind of argue about the meaning of it and the meaning of the names of the twins and all of that. And any publicity is good publicity. If I mistranslate it and that brings scholars to come talk about my book, I'll take it. So some of the research I've seen online says that Timshol is actually spelled Timshol as opposed to El. And it literally translates to being an order. You will govern. It's not thou mayest. It's more of like a
Mm-hmm.
commandment, like Lee says in the American Standard Version. And I would even disagree maybe with Lee himself, where he says that thou shalt is a promise to rule over sin from the King James Version, because if we look in the same King James Version and look at the commandments, those all start with thou shalt. But
Mm-hmm.
we all read them as commandments instead of a promise to, you will eventually not kill somebody. You will eventually not commit adultery. And so I can kind of argue
One
with Lee
day,
there.
look
Yeah, I
forward
never
to it.
read, I've never read thou shalt
I will stop
as a
adultering.
promise. Yeah. One day I'll finally stop.
One day I'll
Si
stop
Dios
murder.
quiere.
I
Yeah.
si Dios quiere. Dios quiere.
So I thought that was interesting.
Dejo de
And
matar.
then another thing I saw online was that times in Judaism, timshel is a word for controlling your desires. And so maybe if that is the case, Steinbeck and Lee kind of got it right, where timshel will be more of a you will rule yourself when it comes to sin, or you have the capability to choose what is sinful or not, and then try to choose the better path. So a few mistranslations. There is some scuttle online, but a bulk of the people, and myself included, think that even if it was mistranslated, the message still really resonates with me. And I think that he has the artistic license to pull what he wants from this story and this meaning of thou mayest, because that's more important than the translation being correct or not. And I kind of like it too. I said it just a few moments ago, but it's almost like the reader can be at the table with Lee and Sam and Adam, where we're talking about the translation and what it means to us. And clearly, people are online talking about the translation. I think it's working exactly. I think if Steinbeck today saw that people online were arguing about the correct translation of Timshel, I think he'd say that's totally fine. That's actually what I wanted. So you can choose to be bad, you can choose to act on it. And Kathy seems to be the only person, maybe so far in the novel, that's really been pigeonholed into this person is evil. And so with Timshel, will there be some redemption, or is Kathy the lone person doomed to not be able to have the opportunity to choose something different? Or she has this opportunity, but prefers to be evil? I don't know. But that's my East of Ethan, the mini takes of Timshel.
Timshel. I like it. I like it. Picasso. Okay. Next segment we have
Next
is
is
it adaptation notes
Netflix.
or is it Steinbeck facts?
Adaptation notes.
Adaptation notes. Okay. I feel like I've kind of grabbed the reins on the past couple, so I'll let you lead with this one.
Okay. Yeah. I only have two bullets that I wrote down. I think that the scripts for both the naming of the twins and Timshel should just be identical to the novel. I think that they have the dialogue already there. Just have it be exactly like that, because I feel like there's such important scenes. And then we've talked a lot about what of the Hamiltons do we include in this East of Eden adaptation. After reading chapter 23, I really think that maybe we only need chapter 23 to be a little blurb of the Hamiltons, because it is a necessary segue to see this part of the plot where Sam now has to leave. He's leaving because all of his kids came up with this plan to move him around because Una's death and their old age has made him not the man he once used to be. And so I think the Netflix adaptation could show all the children there in that one scene, and they can use it as a bridge to pass 10 years of time between what we see in chapter 22 and what we see in chapter 24, as opposed to trying to just say, oh, wow, 10 years have passed between last episode and this year and this episode. The twins are now 11. This could be where we get just 7 to 10 minutes of the Hamiltons.
Yeah,
What are your adaptation notes?
I'm really curious to see how they adapt theological discussions like the one they're having about Cain and Abel into a TV show and make it interesting. Because, like, I feel like if you're a director, it's hard to write a scene where there's three guys like sitting around a dinner table reading the Bible, um, and have that
That's
like,
fair.
okay, this is an episode of television. Um,
Have you
and
seen
like
12 Angry
their
Men?
discussion around Tim
It's just
Show.
dude on a table talking about if some guy's guilty or not, and that's a riveting 90 minutes.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's I'm not saying it's impossible. I just it is Netflix.
If they don't
And then
include Thou Mayest, if they don't include Thou Mayest, I will think that this was a useless 8 episodes. Like altogether, if they don't include the Thou Mayest scene at all, they shouldn't have even done the series, in my opinion.
I yeah, I mean I think it's a really important part of the book. I feel like maybe they might try to sneak it into the show as like a narration thing. I think it really depends on what the last 300 pages of the book look like, whether or not that discussion needs to like be seen and we see the characters sitting around the table, or if we just see things happening and then we hear like a narration of them talk discussing like choice and stuff like
Hmm.
that. Um, because yeah, like you said, like without the lessons around um like agency and choice and good versus evil, um like what's the point? But I feel like a lot of movie or TV show adaptations that aren't careful tend to look at things as like, okay, what happened versus like what did we learn?
Hmm.
Um
Yeah,
and if they're approaching it from like a very like, okay, what happened in these chapters? Like, oh, there were a couple conversations. We're moving on. Um,
that's true.
I
Yeah,
would
I don't
worry
know
that
if you've
that's
heard
how they would
this,
approach that.
and it could be because I've seen online where when Netflix creates any sort of series or movie, they ask the question, is this second screen enough? Because they know that
I've
people are
heard
going to
that.
be
Yeah,
on their
very
phones
disappointing.
while they watch this. And so that's why in some recent Netflix shows, the characters are like talking what they're doing so that people who are on their phone can still hear what's going on screen. And so if they try to make East of Eden second screen, it'll just kind of lose some of its depth. And I'll have wished that Max had done this.
Yeah, yeah. I think that is a really soulless way to produce art, and I do consider TV shows. I think it's supposed to be art. I think it's supposed to be. It doesn't have to be high art, but like I think there is an art to it, and I think it is. I
Yeah.
think it is sad when they're thinking about making it. They're like, okay, but like, could they watch this while they're vacuuming? Like, like, we have to
Hmm.
make sure that people that don't care about this can still follow along, and it's like, like I'd really like if I'm gonna consume something, and consume is maybe a bad word. But like if I'm gonna watch something, like I want to know that it's for people that care. Because if I'm gonna watch it, I'm gonna care. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna watch a show. I mean, there are throwaway shows. Like I think that's what most of reality TV is. Like most of reality TV, you could have on in the background and like tune in when they start arguing. Like if there's a show like this, which is going into intense subject matter, like I would like the intended audience to be people that are paying attention and not like, well, how do we make sure that uh someone that's like jogging while listening to our movie like can still follow along. I did read that article. I think the examples were like from the Prime show Reacher, where they were like showing
Mm.
like how he like walks into a room and it like basically is like, I am in this room and I'm angry and here's what I'm about to do. Let's hear some Steinbeck facts.
Steinbeck Stats. Yeah,
Steinbeck
I've just been
stats. How do you write that?
highlighting Steinbeck Stats,
Edit the
Steinbeck
word
Facts.
stats
They're
every
all
time
the
I've said
same.
facts.
It don't matter. But
All
yeah,
right, go
because I
ahead.
wanted to kind of hold the idea that this was Steinbeck and the Hamiltons were real characters as like a surprise for you the whole time. I've been highlighting a bunch of stuff as I've been reading this to reference back into. But I do just think that it's like if my dad could somehow write a story where he fuses Rolly history in with a really interesting tale of a biblical type generational story, and he guessed how my great grandfather would have interacted with these people, it'd be such a treasure to me, because this book is a treasure to me, and it's not even my family. And I just think it's so cool that he did this for his two sons. And when he started writing this, they were only 6 and 4. And on day one, when he sat down to write it, he wrote, "I am choosing to write this book to my sons. They're little boys now, and they will never know what they came from through me unless I tell them. It's not written for them to read now, but when they are grown and the pains and joys have tussled them." And I like that last line where it's for them to read when they're grown, because I don't think this should be required reading for sophomores in high school, like the very first time this book was put in front of me, because it's written for an audience to have experienced a little bit of life.
Yeah, you have to have had your wife shoot you in the chest to really
Yeah,
understand
I think so.
what Adam's going through here, and we all have.
We all have. We all
Anyway,
have.
sorry.
But I just thought it was really cool, and it makes a lot more sense when you think of him saying that East of Eden is a parallel biography. It's the story of himself. He wrote that he was purposefully jumping around with the stories of his family, because he thought that it'd be impossible to tell it as a straight line narrative while also telling the Trask story. And so that's why it's like, here's 2 chapters of the Trask and then a chapter of the Hamiltons. But all the Hamilton stories are true. And he got a little carried away with the story of Olive and the airplane. That's why that chapter is so long, and he just didn't want to edit it out, because he just got carried away telling that really fun story of his mom with the airplane. And yeah, to wrap this up, I I thought it was interesting where he says that his own father thought that the Hamiltons were crazy. Their failed inventions were crazy. And Steinbeck writes that he thinks this is because his father didn't understand them. And it made me think that maybe East of Eden is Steinbeck's way to try to understand his ancestors, because I'm sure that he had the great stories passed down to him from Olive, and he knew his Uncle Tom and his Grandpa Sam, but there's still Ernest that was saying, "Oh, they're crazy. I don't understand them." And so this is his way to kind of reconcile with it as his great novel. So just really cool.
Yeah, very solid. I love Steinbeck Stats. Probably my favorite, but we should. I wish the pods were faster so we could get straight to Steinbeck Stats. Um, all right.
All right, your predictions.
What do we got? What do we got? I got predictions. Okay, let me look at my. Let me look at the sheet you've made me. Okay. I keep on saying Charles is coming. You know what? I'm done. Charles is not coming.
Done? Okay, Charles
No
is not
Charles.
coming anymore.
Charles is not coming. If he was gonna come, he'd be here. We're never seeing Charles again.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, last time I said through the brothel she'll have an interaction with one of the Hamilton boys, and I said it'd be Will. I'm gonna go with I'm crossing that one out. I'm out on that one. I said Samuel would become like a quasi father to the twins. That didn't happen. And I said twins apprenticeship to Sam. What was he cooking? Yeah, color those in red. Didn't get it. Okay, so
you
here's my
said earlier that
prediction.
you think that Cal's secret is he knows about his mom. Do you wanna
Yes.
etch that into stone here?
Yeah, we're gonna say Cal knows about his mom. But here's kind of the main one. This is the first time I'll have like I've really felt like I was shooting in the dark. This one I feel like I've been led to believe something, and that is
Okay.
that Tom and Adam's gonna call in Tom to help with the drains, and basically Tom's gonna show up, and Adam's gonna be mostly preoccupied with the fact that he just found out that his wife runs this horrible whorehouse, and he's gonna talk to Tom about it, and like Tom's gonna be like, well, we should go check it out, and
Mm.
like we should do something about this. And so Adam and Tom are gonna go to the Salinas Valley, and Tom is gonna go into the whorehouse, not Adam, to investigate. and try to meet Kate. And Kate is going to notice Tom and be intrigued by him and get him into some sort of try to seduce him in some way, but he's going to withstand it. It's only going to make her more curious about him, and she's going to like set out that she has to like figure out what's his deal, and that's the prediction.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Feel good about it. I was really just closed eyes, firing from the hip last time. I had no idea what was about to happen. This one, I'm like, okay, I think I've got something here. I'm gonna be so mad if Charles shows up after I've predicted him to show up for my past 3.
Chapter 25, Charles shows up.
It's like, Charles knocks on the door. No! That'll just be proof I'm really not reading ahead. I don't know what's about to happen. So, there we go.
Cool. Well, any final words, or are we signing off?
I know what my final word will be. It's going to be boys. Because I'm going to say, never fly a pill, me boys. We're out of here. Wait, boys.